Did Thomas Crapper really invent the toilet? How did Soviet era famines give us Tony the Tiger? How did Sigmund Freud's nephew use bananas to start a 36-year civil war? You can learn all about these and hundreds of stories in my new book, Facts That Aren't True. Link in the description.
Have you ever heard of Elliott's trichotomy?
You're not talking about the fucking Elliot argument, are you?
What is the Elliott argument?
He has a whole TikTok page, and his TikTok page is called the Elliot argument, and it's that's not what you're talking about.
Does he use Elliott's trichotomy?
I don't know. Wait, yeah, yeah, because he says an atheist either has to believe that there's an infinite regression or the universe came from nothing, which is incoherent, or whatever. You're talking about.
That's only off of the precept that the universe has a beginning. But yeah, that would be what it is.
Man, I want to talk to the Elliot argument. He's such a gaslighty asshole, but I want to talk to him because what he says is just, it's so stupid. But anyways,
So
go ahead.
Oh, so the first one would be, are you aware of the argument then?
Well, it sounds like what you're saying is different from what this creator talks about. So just give it to me.
Okay. So to describe something that's necessary, right? So at first I'm gonna break down why I believe that the universe must have a beginning and can't be necessary. So to describe a being as necessary, it would have to be uncaused, independent, eternal, all-powerful, and intelligent or personal. That's how I'm describing a necessary being here.
Is that in evidence or is that just by declaration?
Yeah, that's by declaration now, so you know what I'm referencing, but then the evidence would be given.
Okay, well then I mean, the problem with this is, I'm going to let you give the whole argument, but the problem with this is I could just say, nope, the God-defeating penguin is necessary, not a personal revelatory God.
It doesn't go down that route. I'm just kind of telling you what I mean by God, so you have an understanding. Okay. So for this, it's based off of the presupposition that this is what I personally believe, that the universe isn't necessary. The universe isn't eternal. It isn't. The universe isn't eternal, uncaused. It isn't independent. I think that the universe is made of conjunct parts. It changes. It ages. It depends on the conditioning, so whether or not certain physics apply to it. Like when things are too small in physics, what do you call that?
When things are too small in physics, what do you call that?
Yeah, when things get really small in physics, they no longer abide by the traditional laws of physics.
Oh, well, I mean, we have very sophisticated quantum mechanical models that describe things.
Yeah, like quantum physics, then. That's where you get into quantum physics. But I was just saying that the reason why I don't think the universe is necessary or eternal is because it's made of parts, it changes, it ages, and it's dependent on conditions, like with the quantum physics, different things work different ways, depending on how big it is, depending on where it is, right? Like space-time bends on gravity and stuff like that. And the fact that, well, the biggest part is that things age in the universe, things grow. And you can't really grow unless there is a start, right? There wouldn't be no way to track growth without these kind of definitive beginnings and ends. So to me personally, I don't know if you agree with this, but I would say, using an inductive case, I think these are all reasons why I think that the universe has a beginning. I don't think the universe is eternal.
I mean, I have responses to that, but I want to hear the entire argument.
Okay. Well, if you were to agree with that, then this is where Elliott's trichotomy falls in. Elliott's trichotomy is this understanding that only these three things could exist as the reason for the universe, such as it's the PRS, RSE, or something like that. So it would be like either the universe came from absolute nothingness, so null of properties, two properties. The universe is infinite, or it would cause infinite regression. The universe has an infinite amount of creations that aren't necessary beings. Like the universe was caused by this, and that was caused by that. Or the third one would be a necessary being created it. And this is what Elliott's trichotomy is. So it's a brute fact explained by something or contingent, or explained by something necessary, like a necessary being.
Okay. Well, I mean, there's no problem with infinite regression would be one thing. There's no problem with a universe being eternal either. So,
Mhm.
infinite regressions happen all the time. People say they're if you have an infinite if your whatever you believe in leads to infinite regression, then that means that logically your account can't be true. God is not an escape from an infinite regression, but also infinite regressions are absolutely not a logical problem. If they're like you and I have been talking for about 49 minutes, right? There are an infinite number of divisions of time between the beginning and end, or between the beginning of our conversation and right now. Uh, Yet we have this is Zeno's paradox. A finite set can contain an infinite series. We just know this. So there can be the universe can be eternal, and what the Elliot argument idiot doesn't seem to understand is I'm talking about the streamer is that he keeps conflating an eternal universe and an infinite regression with an infinite span of time going backwards. That's not how that
Oh
works. Something anything that has a beginning, there are an infinite number of regressal causes toward its beginning, regardless of if you think God made it begin to exist or the universe brute fact just exists. Before the Big Bang, it existed in a timeless quantum state. It doesn't matter. So there is no dichotomy here where God rescues us from anything with respect to that.
yeah. Well, so for eternal, I give you my problem with. I don't think that there's anything illogical with the universe being eternal, obviously, but I think that with our universe, I just don't think it's probable with our universe, and I give my reasoning why. So I wasn't denying a eternal universe possibility. I obviously think it's possible, but for the infinite regression, um, I don't really understand your perspective on infinite regression, right? Like when you like the example you gave just now. I think all of those would be potential. All the points where you said there's an infinite amount of points where we stop or we could have stopped, and within our finite. And I agree that there can be an infinite thing in a finite set. Like this would be set theory. Like I'm pretty sure Aleph Null counts a finite amount of infinites and stuff like that. It's like this is what set theory is, but even that is because it would be a countable infinite. So there's like a bijection between the things you're counting. But for the universe, if there was an infinite regression of this caused that and that caused that, right? There wouldn't it wouldn't really be a bijection between anything. So it would be the infinite. Well, the problem that most people have with infinite regression would still follow. With like if you start here, it would leave no state of being because there's no start point. Like I would ask you the question: if could you like if
Well,
there's
no, that's now you're invoking an infinite amount of time going backwards. Like you can't an infinite past has no beginning, so there are no now moments.
yeah
So like you can't get to the middle of a book. You can't be on the middle page of a book that is infinite that you began reading an infinite number of time ago or
yeah
anything like that. Yeah, but that's not what I'm saying. If you have a finite amount of time, you still have to infinitely regress divisions of time. Like there are an infinite number of antecedents in that.
mhm. But those wouldn't it it wouldn't really it's not within actuality. So it wouldn't be it would be like a countable infinite. So I don't that's not with infinite that's not the problem with infinite regression. That doesn't deal with what the problem with infinite regression is. Like if it's a countable infinite, right, and there's a bijection between these two things, and we can find correlation between these things, this, then there's no problem with it, right? Like there's no problem with things that are infinite. But infinite regression fails when you give the example of these infinite causes. This type of infinite in specific would have to deal with as you're relating to, but not in specific only to time. Like all of these places have time. The universe has time. The past thing had time. This thing happened at this time, right? And if all of this time that we're talking about here has no beginning because this is all it would be, then that would be the problem with it, right?
Um, you're going over my head. So what I'm doing right now is just to be able to try to engage in what you're saying is I'm looking up if the universe began at the Big Bang, is that countable or uncountable infinity? And let's see. It says it depends what you mean. So of course, like literally every philosophical conversation ever goes to, well, it depends on what you mean by one of those words.
In some sense.
Yeah. If you think of discrete time steps, like 1 moment per Planck time, and you can reach each moment, thus that's a countable infinite. If you think of time as a continuous, then that's uncountably infinite. So the problem with that is it's not like the Planck unit is actually the smallest unit of time. We just don't have any laws of physics that can describe anything in a smaller time interval than that. So,
yep.
The age of the universe is finite, not infinite at all. Moments in time since Big Bang, discrete, countable in space. Is the universe spatially infinite? We don't know for sure. I mean, the universe, for all we can tell, is infinite spatially.
Wait, isn't it expanding?
Yeah.
So how would it be infinite?
There's no problem with something that is infinite growing. Like you appealed to alephs earlier. There are infinities that can be contained within other infinite sets. So the idea that something that is infinity can grow, I don't see any problem with that.
Well, something with its entire... Well, yeah, that just can't happen. That's just... It's illogical. So with the example of the sets, those are different infinities in their entirety being counted numerically. But you can't say one of those infinites are growing, because infinite means with like no limit, well, like a traditional understanding of infinite. Like not getting into set theories, infinites, like absolute infinite, countable infinite, uncountable. Like the traditional understanding of something being infinite means it has no limit, right? With the universe, if it's growing, then the limit is changing, so there has to be a limit.
I don't know why. I don't know what you mean by limit. Because when I hear limit and it's growing, to me, when you say limit, like it has to stop growing at some point. I don't see how that would be the case.
So it doesn't have to,
let me tell you how I think about this. And maybe I'm making a category error. That's possible. But to me, the number of numbers between 1 and 2 is infinite, but smaller than the number of numbers between 1 and 3. So to me, that says to me that logically something that is infinite can grow. Now, I don't know if you're trying to tell me, yeah, but the set of numbers between 1 and 2 doesn't expand into the numbers between 1 and 3, so I don't know. So that's just how I think of it.
Well, yeah, so infinites, when you say like that infinite would be bigger than that infinite, that's because of set theory. There's sets of them. It would be more of it. But what I mean by limit is like for the universe, if it's expanding, because it's actually something we can gauge in capacity. Like let's just say the universe stopped expanding right now. That point that it's at right now, compare it to the point it was at 50 million years ago, right? That would mean that the universe it would have a limit still. The limit's just constantly changing. When you say something's growing, it's becoming bigger. It's constantly changing. The limit was this, now it's that. Like right now as we speak, let's just say the limit is changing every second. That means it has to have a limit because it's growing.
So
it's not infinite.
What I think you're conflating the observable universe with the universe. So, because when you said it's expanding, if it stops expanding, the observable universe, yes, there are finite distances between here and the edge of the observable universe, and it gets bigger every single day. But that kind of implies that beyond the observable universe, there isn't just more of it. No, it can be infinite. And there's a that's not what I meant. We're gonna go to ChatGPT, and you can think that this is cheap or whatever. I don't care because I'm just not smart enough for this. So I just plugged into it, and this is just to help us think. I don't know. Like you can criticize. Yeah. I'm not saying this is true. You can criticize it. I don't care.
No, it's good. Yeah.
It's just that I don't know what to say. So The universe can be infinite and expanding. Infinite doesn't mean unchanging. When cosmologists say this, they don't mean it's getting more stuff or it's getting bigger. To me, that would imply that it doesn't have a limit. And what I asked it is, can something that's infinite grow? To me, I guess I didn't invoke a limit to anything, but there we go.
Yeah.
So an infinite rubber sheet, can you stretch it? Yes, that's a good way to think about the universe, I guess. So it says what's actually growing. It's not the amount of stuff or the numbers of galaxies. It's just the scale of space itself, so on and so forth. So,
Well,
I mean,
this is my.
we can take that for whatever we want,
Well,
but
this is what I mean by being so. So like, you could say the universe is a potential infinite. Like it's a process. Like it's adding more. It's expanding. It's infinite in that sense, but it's not infinite. It's not an actual infinite, which is it's complete total has no limit. The total of something has no limit. Like if it's completely and totally infinite, right? There's an infinite amount of space that has been stretching and expanding, like an actual infinite number of objects already existing or something like that. It means the thing is already infinite in size, age, or number, etc. So it can't have more. Like an example is a hotel with infinite many rooms, all occupied,
yeah, the
right?
Hilbert's Hotel, yeah.
Hilbert's Hotel. So that would be an example of an actual infinite, right? But let's just say we have the Hilbert's Hotel, right? There's
Yeah,
no limit to the
but
number of
Hilbert's
rooms.
Hotel is countably infinite, isn't it? Because there's a key for
Oh yeah,
every room.
that would be a countable infinite, yeah.
Yeah, but the universe isn't. If the universe is
Well,
infinite,
we haven't went over whether or not it's countable or uncountable.
oh no,
Well,
we're
yeah,
gonna be
earlier,
here all
right?
day.
Well, yeah, I know what you're talking about, but the universe, no, no. Well, in the sense of it, well, we haven't talked about it expanding. In the sense of it expanding, that would be countable anyway, right? Because it's like we can track like each single one of the
But
prior
you're
capacities of it.
conflating the observable universe with the
Oh
universe
yeah, yeah.
itself. The
Something
observable
outside
universe
of
is
it.
absolutely countable, but if it goes on forever, then that's different.
Okay, I don't. So when you say observable universe, right, and a non-observable universe, well, what I'm saying is like when you say universe, what are you referencing? Are you referencing like the space in its entirety? Because I could say you could because you truly could say like with this is how it would work with set theory. You could say the universe is infinite, and like this space, it's like still expanding and growing onto another set, which is what we're in right now. It's just the observable universe that we have, right? Like in set theory, you could have one infinite and then another set that's growing. The infinite is growing into another set, so it's already reached infinite, but then it's counting more. But it wouldn't be a part. Um, I don't know. I just don't know. The universe, if you say universe, referencing the universe in its entirety, everything that's in the universe, like the galaxy, just existence itself, then you can't. Then the universe can't be expanding. Then just the observable universe is expanding. Is that what you think? That only the observable universe is expanding, or maybe potentially the rest of the universe could be
Well,
expanding?
the problem with this is we don't know what the rest of the universe is doing. Like we just can't know. For all we know, the laws of physics are different beyond the observable universe. That's what the multiverse is. It doesn't mean that there are parallel universes, just different universes. There's one universe, but many bubble universes within it that have different laws of physics.
Yeah,
So, um,
I know what you mean.
I
I get
mean,
what you
in
mean.
a sense, I think the universe could be like the universe could be infinite, but it's only our area of the universe that's growing. I guess I don't have a problem with that.
Well, I thought you were referencing like the our observable, like what we live in right now, our galaxies, our stars, right? What's expanding? All of that is only the universe. I didn't know you're referencing like some like existence with other universes inside of it, like this multiverse, like things outside of what we can observe.
Well, yeah, I
But I'm
mean,
saying,
universe expands beyond. We have no reason to think the universe doesn't expand beyond the observable universe. And
no, I
if the
agree.
universe were finite, you could detect its curvature in the observable universe, and we can't. So that is the very strong inference we have to reasonably state that the universe really may go on literally forever. Like if
Wait,
you had an
what
infinitely
what
long
do you
laser
define
beam,
as
you couldn't hit the back of your head with it.
what do you define as universe?
Well, I mean, you could define it in different, like in the colloquial sense, we define the universe as space, like it's the stuff out there. But I mean, you could
Yeah,
just call the
well, that's what I
universe
was
all like I sometimes just say the universe is all things that exist.
exists. Okay, well then, yeah, that's where. So when you said universe earlier, you were talking about all things that exist, and the observable universe was just the space that the colloquial definition, right?
Well, I would say the observable universe is part of the universe. Like I don't think observable universe is a dumbed down version of universe. It's just
Mhm.
part of it, you know? Like
What would a multiverse be?
multiverse is again, we can't see beyond the observable universe.
Yeah.
Multiverse came out because the mathematics told us that it's possible that in the initial expansion of the in the Big Bang, there were regions of the universe where the constants came together in different ratios than we see them here. They call them bubble universes, and so the laws of physics in different places in the universe aren't the exact same as here. So if I teleport, the observable universe has a diameter of about 46 billion light years, I think. So if I teleported you a trillion light years away from here, you would still be in the universe, but its laws of physics might be different.
Okay, well that's where the misconceptions come in. I'm interpreting the universe as um the all observable celestial bodies, like the galaxies, the cosmos, the planets, the space, the stars, the energy, right? And if you were to leave
Sure,
our
that's
universe,
that's a countable thing, and you could call it
Mhm.
infinite in the sense that nothing else exists, but that's not a
Yeah.
real
Well,
infinity.
what I'm saying is I wouldn't like if when like our linguistics are kind of different. Like if we were to leave this like the cosmos, I wouldn't call that the universe. I wouldn't say we're in the universe still. We just left. I would say we left our universe. We would either have to enter a different universe or some different space, some different I don't know. I just don't word it like that. That's not usually how I would word leaving universes or something like that. And for multiverse, I interpret that as like um a plurality of universes themselves, a plurality of sets of cosmos and stuff, right?
That's
But
what
I
I
know
always thought it
I
was too, but that's not what the idea actually is.
yeah, I understand what you mean now. There's when you say universe, it's just everything that's real, just not real, but everything in existence, everything that exists. And then when you said leave our universe, you were just referencing the space that is growing. So yeah, I agree with you. Then if you say everything that's real, I think everything that's real can be infinite, and then there can be parts of it that are growing. I agree.
Yes. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
So
Well,
what you're saying is we just wasted 20 minutes of time. No, I'm
yeah.
kidding. um, how long have we been going? We've been going for an hour and 6 minutes. Do you want to stay on this topic? I don't care.
Um.
Wait, why are we talking about?
Yeah, I
Oh,
don't know what
because
this
it's
is
the
about.
Elliott argument. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, we started on infinite regression, and then we ended up. I don't know why we ended
Well,
up on the infinity thing from there. I don't really
well, I
want
think
to
we
backtrack.
were just talking about infinite regret. Well, I guess I guess the fastest way to get back to what we're talking about is so you said I was viewing the infinite regression as like an infinite amount of time. Like there's no beginning, you can't be in the middle. Like if you're
Well,
starting.
I wasn't accusing you of doing that right away, but then it did kind of sound like you were doing that later on. So,
So in the example of the universe being like just caused over and over and over and over and over again, right? Would those all of those things not be gauged in time or like a tracking of events? Like let's just say our
well,
universe
yeah,
was
I don't.
caused by
We humans don't have a way of explaining cause and effect in any other way.
then time, right?
Yeah, but there are weird quantum events that seem to not happen in a classical sense of cause and effect. You know,
Yeah, but wouldn't it be like cosmic
the
chaos?
well, it's the I don't know what you call it, like the manifestation or creation, whatever, or of these of virtual particles seems to really, in a sense, not follow any kind of classical notion we have of cause and effect. And quantum fluctuation events like that are proposed as a potential initiator of the Big Bang. Before that, the
Is
universe existed just in a quantum state.
isn't that like what quantum particles and stuff are as well? Or don't they like they don't exist until you observe them or something like that? Or Like they
No,
change.
well, they exist, but what you can't really say is like discreetly where they are exactly. You can just probabilistically know where they are, but then there's different parts of this. Like the moment you make a measurement of where the object is, you now can know nothing about its momentum, so you can't predict into the future where it's going because that measurement affects its trajectory. And then with electrons, we describe them as occupying the space within an electron cloud. Now, I don't know, like, there are people that say that means the electron is everywhere in that cloud and then manifests in a location, in a specific location when you measure it. I think maybe the other interpretation is no, it could be anywhere within there. We just can't know until we measure it, and then we can't know where within that space it'll be in the next moment. So
Yeah. Well, thanks for understanding. But like you said before, I guess I don't even know how to say traditional or standard, but I guess a standard way of cause and effect would always be temporal, right? Like these tracks, it would have to be time. This event happens, then this event happens. So with this, that was one of the examples on the Elliott trichotomy of the universe is just caused by something that's caused by something infinitely. With that, would that not be an infinite amount of time with no beginning, which would cause the problem with infinite regression that people have with
no,
there would be
I
no.
don't think it would be, because I'll just go back to if the universe, if before the Big Bang the universe existed in a quantum state, it can exist eternally in the sense that time as we understand it doesn't flow in under those conditions. So
Yeah.
it's past eternal. It's kind of like inside of a black hole. Are like the way you can describe space-time breaks down. So we don't have a description for what it is, but time doesn't flow like we understand it in the I was going to say in the real world, but like in the
Yeah,
typical
like
world or whatever.
yeah, in
So
space.
I think we can say, I don't see any logical problem with saying we have a past eternal model. The universe, there's no universe before the Big Bang. Well, I mean, we don't have a universe like ours before the Big Bang. You don't have to invoke time is circular, infinite bangs, and then compressions, bang bounce. You don't have to invoke that. You can just have a past eternal universe, and it has an infinite regression. That's not a logical problem because there's an infinite amount of, I guess we could say, slices of time
Yeah.
between, just like there are an infinite number of slices of distances between me and the kitchen, yet I can walk to the kitchen. So I can traverse that infinite series in a finite set. So I don't think that there's an actual problem with respect to that.
Wait, say it one more time. There's an infinite amount of what between you and the kitchen?
Slices, like I could slice the distance from me to the kitchen an infinite number. I could have the distance.
Divide it infinitely, yeah.
Yeah, and you can do that with time too.
You would be like 1 second away from something, half a second from something.
Yep,
and
half of a
40
half,
seconds from something.
half of
Yeah.
that, half, yeah. And we know that we traverse those kinds of infinities literally all the time. I'll do it right now.
Yep, right there.
Yeah. So that's one of the problems I have with that. One of the other things is when you said the universe can't be necessary because it's composed of contingent things. Well, that's just a compositional fallacy, isn't it? I don't think you can logically prove that therefore the universe can't be that. I had oh my God, on Friday, we talked to, some guy tried to make an argument like this. We talked for like an hour and 15 minutes and never got past premise one. I wanted to move on, but the other people didn't but we spent so much time on this exact thing. I said, look, the universe can be composed of things, but that are contingent or whatever, but it itself is necessary. And they said, no, it doesn't work that way. I said, well, okay, doesn't God have attributes and characteristics and free will? And doesn't God have thoughts? And so, like, if God can be composed of those things, but God isn't those things, God's one nature is his ontology or whatever, then it's
Hmm.
like, okay, well, yeah, you get to do that, but I don't get to do that. I
Oh,
feel like
but
there
for
was,
yeah, but for the Abrahamic beliefs in Islam, especially because Allah has like 99 names and stuff like that. But I think it's in Christianity too. God isn't composite. So like when he has energies and stuff like that, they're not parts of him. They don't think God has parts and pieces and stuff. They think God is a whole. And there's true things about him. Like you would say he is truly this or true. Oh, here's the best example. Do you know about Christianity and how God, or you were just talking about earlier, God incarnated it and Jesus is God and human.
do I think that or what?
Oh no, do you know like do you know about the incarnation in Christianity? How Jesus is God and human? You were talking about it earlier.
I mean, I've heard people try to explain it. I don't think it can possibly make any sense to
Yeah,
be
well,
fully God and fully human.
oh yeah, well that's the problem right there. That's the point. So they don't. You wouldn't say that God is 100% man, 100% God. You wouldn't say he's fully God because that entails like a threshold, right? It entails composition. You would say these things are true of him. He's truly God because he possesses the divine nature. He's truly human because he possesses the human nature. With Allah, you would say Allah is truly merciful because he exercises mercy. You would say he's truly powerful because he exercises power. You wouldn't say a part of him is powerful, a part of him is this. You wouldn't say he's 100% powerful, 100% that, because they don't believe God is made of parts or composition, or at least, like the churches
Yeah.
and stuff, non-heretical, like the people who hold to this kind of dogma and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't know if this is ultimately the point that they would have to make on this, but if they say God isn't any of those particulars, but then what I feel like happens, and this is another thing that I tried to talk about with the guest, it just got derailed so many times. Because then if God is just, how would you even say it? Like there's this, it's kind of like an ontological thing about God. God just is.
His being. What do you mean?
Yeah, but then what I think is happening, and I can't remember how to word it, but I think you run into a problem when you do that, because I asked the guy, wait, is existence a predicate? And he said no. I was like, okay, but if you're just gonna say if you make all these philosophical rationales for God that literally just ground in him being a singular existing entity, then you are saying that God's existence is the only predicate. And so I feel like that's a kind of a serious problem. Yet, like, you can't hold both those beliefs. You have to
Both,
abandon one of
both what
them at
beliefs in
least.
specific?
That,
That
again, it's going to be hard for me to be specific on this because I've read one philosophy book in my whole life. But they say that God is, like, they work around all these things like, oh, how can he be fully God and fully, well, because he's not those attributes. God just is an entity who, like, can be reduced to God just is whatever.
oh
I don't know how
well
to
here
say this
I got
properly.
it. So
But then you say
so
that his existence is his only predicate. If his identity just boils down to he just is the thing where his essence and his nature are the same thing, and I have like literally notes from it from the other day here. So
um well from I don't know. Have you talked to a lot of like Christian debaters who are really like, I mean, they're kind of really educated in what they believe, at least in specific. They can really explain things because they've it's certainly happened for me in ways in which the original responses from Christians didn't make sense, but then with a kind of leveled education on what their actual belief is, it it doesn't follow through. It probably wouldn't follow through in a sense that you're thinking I'm saying it does, but it follows through in the sense of that you'd be like, okay, I see how you guys are saying that, but do you also believe this? So I guess the way to say it is like the person, because of the Trinity, obviously. So like the entity of God would be like the being, right? Like his essence, his essential set of qualities. That thing just exists. But the person of Christ doesn't, like, he's not his attributes. Is what they mean. It's not like he
yeah,
just is, but the subject. let's say like subject X and his attributes. Like he's not his attributes, therefore he can possess opposing attributes. Like without them really being composition. So like he can have a nature with X, Y, Z, and have a nature with the opposite of X, Y, and Z. And because he's not both of these things and he just possesses them, I think that's what they're trying to say. Like the subject of Jesus himself, the person.
Yeah, that's fine. And to me, I don't know. I have this intuition that it's just going to run into that problem. Because if you can point out that, if God we can be fully man and fully human. Well, because that's not what God's nature or whatever is. Then God's actual essence, the one singular thing about God boils down to his divine essence or nature, which is just his existence.
His essential set of qualities.
Yeah, well, I mean, he was, I guess, making a slightly different version of the argument, but he really just kept saying, and I wish I could remember how to phrase it properly, but he was just kind of saying, look, all these extra things don't result in a problem because God's singular essence is his nature, and to me, you're just telling me that God exists. His existence is his essential quality, but existence isn't a predicate. So I don't understand how you can hold both those things at the same time.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. I'm pretty sure essence is the whatness, like the existence itself, and then the nature is like the to exist. That's what it's the to exist of the essence. I'm not exactly sure. I mean, like I said, there's so many different positions. I don't know exactly what type of. I don't really know, but what was it supposed to be about again? Oh yeah, talking about parts of the universe and stuff like that.
Yeah, I was saying it's a compositional fallacy.
Yeah. Well, earlier I think that's what our misconception was as well when I was saying the universe grows and ages and stuff like that. Is I wasn't referencing the universe as things outside of it or potential things outside of it that we can observe. I was only referencing the observable universe, like stars and stuff. Like from what we see, at least it grows. And so what I'm saying is like the observable universe has a beginning. Like you agree, like at least like because it's expanding and stuff like that. Because things.
Yeah, but I don't think that would be a fair way to. I think I just made my eyes super red. I don't think that would be a fair way to declare, well, therefore you can't claim that the universe is necessary. Because by that same logic, because you're admitting that the universe goes beyond our observable universe, because by that same logic, I would say, well, look, Jesus came into being on a day and then fucking died like a beta on a certain day. Therefore, God isn't eternal. So.
Well, I mean, that, I don't know. I guess the difference with that is like, when you say Jesus did this, it's like you're referencing different things. Like Jesus did this, you're referencing the person qua his humanity. And then you say God isn't eternal, you're referencing God, his being, you're referencing his essence, which never actually incarnated. His essence never became human. His essence never did any of that. But the biggest difference with the universe is I wasn't actually agreeing. I don't know. I'm not like affirming. I'm just not too educated in it yet. Like things outside of the universe and properly at least as much as I should be with physics. So I'm not like affirming that there is. I don't know. I'm just agnostic to whether or not there's things outside the universe. All I was saying was that when people are referencing the universe at the beginning, I think they're talking about the observable universe because of the understanding of the Big Bang, the understanding of things growing, which was my contingency earlier. If things are growing in age and dying and stuff like that, then this part at least that we live in, that you define as the universe, is part of the universe. At least would have to have a beginning.
Sure.
So it would be like, and that would be analogous. That would be analogous with God. So that aspect of God, the human nature, that aspect of God would have to have a beginning, which is the incarnation. But the entirety of God wouldn't have a beginning. So I think
here's what I think we should do, or I should do. I think I should probably get the next guest up because I feel like I probably have run out of juice here. I want to tell you something, and I just want you to try to quickly tell me what you think about this.
Yeah.
Because the way you're describing God here, like saying Jesus had limits, but he's not God because it's not God's essence or whatever. to me, a lot of this, and I had this conversation once when I was trying to talk to somebody about, I was debating with them, the Trinity like literally makes no sense. If Jesus is God and God is the Father, then Jesus is his own Father. Like all these things you hear people say or whatever. And then God, he kept saying that God is a nature, and this sort of thing. And so that what ended up happening was I said to the guy, I was like, wait a minute, the way you're describing God is an adjective. Is that the case? And he said, yeah. And like the way you're describing it kind of sounds that way too. And then I said, okay, well, I have now just created the grammatical argument against God's existence, because now when you say things like God did blank, an adjective can't carry a verb. So God has just been grammatically and logically rendered to be literally incoherent. So
here, real fast, I want to go over this with you, which is your understanding of the Trinity.
Well, it's what he admitted to, and I'm not claiming that is how.
Oh no,
it works.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about originally. When you at first give the critique of if Jesus is God, and the Father is God, and that means that Jesus is his own Father.
Yeah, he was talking to himself in the desert, all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, like for those, it's like when the Trinity is like three distinct persons, so three different subjects, and when we say that they're all God, where the only thing that they're sharing would be the essential set of qualities, so like the divine mind, the divine nature, the divine essence, but they don't share things like their property and relations. So like the Father begets and the Son is begotten. So the Son wouldn't be his own father. The Son doesn't beget. That's not a property of relations in his subject.
Yeah.
So the persons would have different properties in relation to each other, which is why you wouldn't say that's like the clears up the mishap with that problem. Other than that, the
problem with him is that he said God is an adjective. I mean, if you say God is the singular divine essence, is that a noun? I mean, you have an adjective, essential, or it could be an adverb. And then you have the essence. So is the essence a noun?
Well, this is the problem with that. When you say God, you're kind of already referencing his essence. So you're just saying God's essence is an essence. But he also could reference one of the persons when he says, like, you could say God referencing Allah, right? Or referencing Jesus or referencing the Father, but all be correlating. So like, I don't know what he meant by God is the essence. Was he talking about one of the persons, or I'm not exactly sure.
No, because he was talking about forget Jesus and the Father and the Holy Spirit, because if there's one God, what is that? What is it? And then he just said it's, he described it to me. I was like, sounds like you're saying God is an adjective. And he said, yes.
Yeah, that's a huge problem. So
right.
If you're not talking about any persons and you just say God, the only thing you could be referencing is his essence, because that's the being, that's the whatness of God. It's his
So
essence.
Is that a noun?
Is what a noun? Saying God means
the essence. You said if you're not talking about the Holy Spirit or Jesus or the Father in particular, then when you say God, if monotheism is true, then what is that thing? It's God's essence. Is that a noun?
Is what a noun? Is God's essence a noun? I don't know exactly what you're asking.
Whatever it is, that is the one thing that allows us to say that monotheism is true. There has to be this one thing that God is. Whatever it is, I don't care. Call it whatever you want. Is it an adjective or a noun?
I guess it would be a noun.
Okay.
I guess
if you say that, then fine. Then you can say things like God created the heavens and the earth. But if you if it's an adjective, then you can't. That just.
Well, I would say it's a noun because like a noun would be used for like different classes of people and stuff, right? So it's like, I guess, essence, like your essence is the what you are. That would be a different class of whatness, right? Like even a rock has essence. Me and you both have essence, but they're different from a different being's essence. So I guess it would have to be a noun. But I understand what you're saying with the adjective, and I'm not saying that doesn't work. I'm not trying to like argue against that. As I told you before, like it depends on their position, like the person you were talking to. So I mean, I see what you're saying though, and I think that is kind of neat with the adjective thing. I mean, you could try to talk to many people. I mean, I think I don't know how much it would work. I mean, it was working on that guy clearly. So
yeah, that kid's a dipshit. I haven't talked to him since then because he lied so badly. It was utterly hilarious.